So I have two rules. Okay. When it comes to family, it's unconditional love. When it comes to sport, it's unconditional support. Because you're gonna have a lot of downs, honestly. You're gonna lose more than you're gonna win. And if you don't have the support team that's gonna be there for you all the time, I think there's no way you're gonna be a successful athlete.
سيد عبد الله اهلا وسهلا.
عليه صوان.
شو الاخبار؟
حياك.
الحمد لله. Abdullah, you are a distinguished sportsman, horseback riding, and proudly representing the United Arab Emirates, which is something amazing. First of all, allow me to congratulate you for the qualification for the 2024 Paris Olympics.
Thank you.
Amazing. Before we dive in, I'm really interested to know more about Abdullah and why the horseback riding.
Well, it's a funny question to start with, to be honest, because I had no background that came with horse riding in my family. My father is a fisherman, policeman, and honestly, horses was a trip with a bunch of guys. We were actually a football group, and they said, why not try some horse riding together? And honestly, when we went the first time, I was so scared, like literally so scared from the horses, and they were Arabian horses. We discussed before, Arabian horses when we were starting to ride in Al Ahli club, and they in my eyes they looked so huge, and at the moment they're actually the smallest horses we ride.
Okay,
So,
how old are you back then?
16,
Okay,
17.
yeah.
And so I started late in my career with this sport, and you know, I'm usually good at anything I do. When it comes to football, I played tennis also as a teenager, and all of my friends were better than me in horse riding. They all had some kind of lessons before me, which probably triggered me to prove myself somehow.
That's amazing. And since then, you've been like practicing this sport.
So, you know, when you start any sport, there's obviously a way of doing things, and from my father installed this into me to try to understand how things are done, why are they done in this way, and he loved tennis so much. And I remember in our house, he always had, you know, the VHS cassettes, and he'll purchase anything in any trip we had wandering Europe back then. Which that curiosity is very important starting any career, I would say. It doesn't have to be also in horses. And it triggered something in me. So it was my own field. I had no help from my family. So I had to somehow prove myself. And I would say, yeah, we tried to learn everything and grasp everything every step of the way.
That's amazing. And during that journey, I'm really interested to know more about, first of all, the sport, the horseback riding, because it's increasing in popularity, which is really cool. And especially when a sportsman representing a country, I think there's a lot of pressure to make sure that the progression as an individual, as a sportsman, and as a team is becoming really fundamental. So that journey, it took you like since when you were 16 years, and you practice other sport. Take me through the journey, how you progressed, and the stages that you went through, because I've seen a lot of like achievements that you represented the country, and now again multiple achievements that lead you to the qualification. So
I'll give you a bit of background about show jumping, which is the sport we participate in. It has a long career, longer than anyone would understand. So I'll give you an example. The rider that has the most Olympic participations, or an athlete, is actually an equestrian horse rider and show jumping. Ian Miller from Canada. He participated in more than 10 Olympics.
Okay.
So calculate that with the Olympics happening every 4 years. So he had a career span of 40 years at least. And if he started competing 10 Olympics ago, he was already good enough to go to the Olympics. So that give yourself another 10 years or at least 15 years.
It's a long term. When it comes to the lifespan of a sportsman,
yes,
I think it's long.
Yes,
yeah?
It's quite long. So if you take care of yourself and if you have the right, I would say, environment, system, management, you can have a very long career. And I would say few highs, if it makes sense. So don't get frustrated. There's always another chance. Have a long-term goal. It's be a bit patient. which probably that's one of my strongest assets and also probably one of my weaknesses at the same time.
Okay.
I'm too patient sometimes. You know, you use it. Sometimes it's to your benefit. Sometimes it's not, honestly. But yeah, so it's a long career, and you need to I would say be patient when you plan it. You know, there's a lot of you know, taking your time, learning your trade, even when it comes to horses, because you have to do it with an animal that you need to understand and spend a lot of time with. So it's something that's very interesting. The challenges are on daily basis, and obviously we change the environment on regular basis. It's different events, different courses you're tackling, different countries, different goals. I mean, every part of the season has a different goal. So it keeps you, I would say, motivated and thirsty to success all the time.
Since you mentioned something really interesting about the personality, and I think patience is the key word here, I'm really interested to know Abdullah's attributes or personality, because again, it's a tough sport, I would say, because as you mentioned, you are the sportsman and you have a horse, which is something that you have to make sure that both of you are on the prime condition to be in that show or that competition. So how this instilled in you and how you relate your personality with the horse that you're riding?
I think, I mean, experience would be a big factor, but it also comes from, like you said, your personality. My dad was always a hard worker. I mean, he went through a lot of challenges when he was young. He raised us as a family and his two aunts, my two aunts, I mean, and he had my grandfather passed away a long time ago. And unfortunately also my uncle. So he had to go through all of this by himself at an early age. And you know, from there, you know, he's a tough guy that went through perseverance and he's been honestly great, I mean, successful in both his careers. And it was someone who I had, you know, access to on daily basis.
Yeah.
You know, I became also a police officer myself. I became an athlete myself with all of the inspiration I had from my father, dealing with him on daily basis. So I would say he shaped my character a lot, and he was always striving for better. And I think I would say that passion came from my mom. You know, my mother was always pushing all of us, you know, me, my sisters, my brother, and my father on top of us, you know, like, try to be the best you can while you can. And never settle for second place. And whenever we were you know, happy with something we've achieved, she's like, yeah, but what's your next goal? You know, we did well in school. They're like, yeah, well, you better apply on the best
Always
university.
On the
exactly. You know, and you know, high standards were set very quickly in our house, and I think that definitely helped me a lot.
That's really inspiring. But sometimes, as we know, as a young kid learning this type of sports, you have the pressure of the family and the expectations are really high. Did this have, I would say, a hard influence in some cases, or like, okay, you're accepting this and you're setting up for a bigger challenge?
Like I mentioned before, you know, tennis was my first real professional sport.
Okay.
And I played for since I think I was 10 years old, maybe even younger. And for a few years, you know, my father drilled me day and night, you know, to make me the best athlete I was. But quickly, I actually realized I think tennis wasn't meant for me. Honestly, I was too short for the sport.
Okay.
And on top of that, I think you know, we had challenges between me and my father doing the right things at the right time. I think we personally should have started competing earlier. I didn't compete as early as I thought I should. Obviously, it's as a teenager you wouldn't know, but you know, it made me a bit frustrated when I started competing. I was trying to be too perfect, which was easy to do in practicing at home. So it was a real challenge. And then, like I mentioned, you know, I started exploring a new sport, and I wanted to try myself with all the things I learned from my father. And I honestly used everything he taught me in a sport where I could, you know, prove myself to him that I could be successful. And to a degree, being a short rider wasn't a disadvantage that much when it came to short jumping.
Okay.
Yeah.
And What's the hardest period as a sportsman in that specific sport, the horseback riding? What's the most difficult challenge? Because you jump into it and you exploded actually when you were 16. You were a teenager and you started when you entered the competition space. What's the hardest phase that you went through?
I mean, you know, challenges are always there. I think people put themselves down very quickly, comparing themselves to other people, and I learned not to do that. I think if you worry about yourself, you'll avoid a lot of these challenges and obstacles, I would say. You know, I try to do this even with my kids. You know, like, don't compare your kids to other kids. They're in this school. They're doing this. They started walking faster. You know, my cousin did not walk. You know,
Yeah.
so comparison is something I do personally. I try not to worry about everyone else, because if it used to be a thing that I used to do, and honestly, it puts you down. It doesn't encourage you, and before you know it, you know, you're worried about everyone else except your own career, your own I would say abilities. So I think if you concentrate on yourself, you'll avoid a lot of these challenges. And in the equestrian sport, it's very easy to do, because you can easily say, well, he has a better horse, that's why he's winning. You know, and in real life, you know, they have a faster car, they have, you know,
True.
so it could get into your mental status and put you down. And I don't mind hard work, you know. I actually think, like, I have the mentality of, like, yeah, you need to work hard for stuff. And I would say in my career, I always don't expect things to be handed to me. I was very lucky to get a lot of opportunities, but I was always ready for them. So I did the hard miles. So whenever the opportunity came up, I was ready. I analyze a lot of my competitors, and I'm like, you know, why did he get this opportunity? Well, he reached this level. Am I at that level yet? You know, and you have to be honest and blunt about it. And if you're not there, you better, you know, improve your skills. You know, be able to sell yourself when the like sponsors come upon, and you know, an opportunity to be chosen. For example, we were in Dubai Equestrian Club, where a lot of the best horses were handed to the team of locals.
Okay.
So there is going to be a choice. I should be the best rider, so I would get the best horse available. So it's a bit of a challenge, and you have to go through that with the mental aspect of it to you know, to do the right thing. And like I said, don't expect things to be handed to you. Life is not fair, but I think if you sit somewhere and expect someone to give you what you deserve, I don't think it will happen. You need to earn it.
This mindset is an application in everything, as you said. I love the fact that when you did the aspect of comparison as a benchmark to see how you can improve, and not to have like, okay, why he's getting the perfect conditions or the perfect opportunities. And the other element that I'm really impressed that you already in the mindset that I'm already prepared to receive this opportunity. That puts you but we are humans by the end of the day. Sometimes we say things, but this is an open-mindedness and a positive, strong mindset. But we are humans. We always have this kind of tendency to compare ourselves, to see not a status or to try to manage our ego, but it's a sport. And I have a theory, and we briefly discussed last time, I don't like the participation trophies.
100%.
Yes, you have to compete, you have to, of course, you have the benchmark versus yourself, but again, sometimes the competition puts you on the edge and puts you in the condition, how can I improve myself? So I think in that sport specifically, and it's a, when I watch a couple of competitions, it's like only 60 seconds kind of all the training that you put behind, only 60 seconds. And we discussed our common friend Haitham that when he put all the efforts and the time he trains and go to the stage and like to compete, it's like only 60 seconds. It's crazy sport, the same as the track field we discussed it also. So how you prepare the mental, because you covered the physical practice, the training, the horse training, how you manage your mentality during the competition.
It's very tough. It's very tough. I think you need to simplify things when it comes to that, I would say, magnitude of pressure. Like you said, you know, there's a big investment when it comes to the animals we use in these horses, and there's a lot of investment when it comes to I would say the facilities we work with, and then the whole team behind the whole operation.
I see.
So there's a lot of aspects, and at the end of the day, you're like an actor that's gonna go and do your act for like you said, 60 seconds or a little bit more, and everything counts on your performance, you know. So there's, you know, it's quite tough, and the more you get into a routine that you're comfortable with, I would say that's ideally the key. I try to do, you know, I won't say it's rituals as much as a comfort zone. So you try not to change too much a routine that's successful with a certain horse, for example. So we try to stick to it. Obviously, there's a lot of variables: the weather, the competition itself, the mood of your horse, the mood of your body. Being an athlete, you know, sometimes you're sore, sometimes you're too happy, you know.
Okay.
So maintaining that together is very tough. And when it comes to controlling an animal on huge obstacles and trying not to, you know, touch them because they're very light material, it comes to a lot of, you know, concentration and proper mindset that you're gonna perform. You know, you're gonna bring back the goods in the right way. And as you know, I work as a trainer and a rider at the same time in the same sport, which I'm lucky to do. And I think it teaches you your trade even better because you try to understand other people's perspective when it comes to the sport.
I see.
Same thing, I think, in business. You try to understand your employees, what's their background, what will affect them today in their performance. So it's really trying to understand the whole picture in order to have the best performance at the end of the day.
That's really quite, I wouldn't say complicated, but you mentioned something interesting about fixing a structured routine and let the other variables play a very small margin. Since you mentioned this kind of like controlling all the environment, how much do you think that the team or the support system around you can make or break your performance?
So I have two rules. Okay. When it comes to family, it's unconditional love. When it comes to sport, it's unconditional support. Because you're going to have a lot of downs, honestly. You're going to lose more than you're going to win. And if you don't have the support team that's going to be there for you all the time, I think there's no way you're going to be a successful athlete. I think it comes from family sometimes, it comes from your spouse, it comes from your team around you. Even when it comes to us, you know, we have assistant trainers, we have grooms, we have even a community, the riders. When they support each other, you know you're going to come back again, try harder, and hopefully be successful again. But I think it's crucial. I don't think people reach the highest end of the sport. I mean, I've watched a million documentaries when it comes to, you know, Usain Bolt, we mentioned before. And
yeah.
They have the support team, you know, these people who believe in you. You'll get some injuries, you know, things won't work. You know, you're going to do every single bit right. The whole checklist is right, and then you're not going to perform. You know, it's sport. You know, there's only one winner at the end of the day. So you have to have that support in order to succeed long term, definitely.
Take me through the feeling of and the pride you carry to represent a country. And you've been on the stage representing a country, and now you participated in multiple Olympics, and you qualified now to the 2024 in Paris. Take me through the feeling of like being a sportsman representing a country.
So I'll go back to 2006, and it was my first time jumping as a professional in this sport after, you know, a few years of starting riding. And luckily enough, I was in the shortlist to compete in the Asian Games in Qatar in 2006. And I've never represented my country as a team till then.
As an individual?
Yeah, and I was still in university back then. And most of my competition before was as an individual.
Okay.
So that has a good taste. But then, you know, when we went to Qatar, we ended up winning a bronze medal with the team. When everything sinks in, you start realizing you've just represented your whole country against these countries, and we won a medal. And it gives you a different dimension of the responsibility you carry when you represent your country.
I see.
And it's not only about, I would say, performing as an athlete. You actually consider yourself as an ambassador. You carry the flag, especially in these championships. Like when I remember when we went to the Asian Games in Qatar, like every country had their own rituals represented in the village, you know, the athlete village, and it was amazing, you know, like before sunrise, you know, the gymnasts were doing stretches in the morning, and it gives you a special vibe, and you're like, yeah, you know what, this is me representing my country on a global stage, and you know, we want to show them what we, you know, what our culture is, what we represent, how good we are as an athlete, as athletes. And it's since then, you know, it's been a pleasure to represent my country, and we've never been to the Olympics as a team before, and you know, it's a great achievement, you know. We're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be something special, and we can't wait to live the experience.
That's again, it's a bit emotional. It's really nice because you went through it and you experienced the feeling, and also that fuels your performance and your mindset to be like on top of your game when you participate. Take me through the now, because you mentioned that you are a coach, and it's clear that your experience it's perfect fit to like start coaching the sport and the whole mindset, because you have a lot of similarities. And I'm honored to invite here on this podcast from athletes, Olympics, executives, and founders, that they have a lot of similarities when it comes to the facing challenges, overcoming it, and creating their own identity around something that they are passionate about. So now you are a coach. What do you expect from someone who's, take me as an example. What do you expect, the minimum expectation for someone to consider him that he has the material to become a horseback rider?
I mean, look, when we talk about a coach, it's simple. The coach has experience. He's been through different scenarios that you've not been exposed to. I think that's ideally the main concept of it. And then he has the shortcuts. Shortcuts doesn't mean short. It means the straightest way in achieving a certain goal. So that's what you want. You know, you want guidance to reach your goals in the best way possible. And we usually decide what's your main goal, and then, you know, factor it into certain steps and try to do it one step at a time.
I see.
And you know, from experience now being a coach, a lot of the I would say either students or athletes don't realize the progress. So we always tend to do a session where, you know, we've done this at the end of our season, but you have to see where you started and then judge yourself how far you came.
I see it like a benchmark.
Because you always judge yourself on the now. You know, you never remember how good or bad you were at school, good or bad you were at university. You judge yourself now.
That's true.
You know, and sometimes you need reminding yourself or your athletes, like, we came a long way. We still did not reach our goal. We still need to progress in our journey. But, you know, it's very important to feel that success of achieving something. You're on the right path, but also we're not there yet. So it's one of the mindsets I use with my athletes or with my riders. But also, you know, in reality, I actually still compete with them. In some of the events we're at the same. So it also forces me to keep my standard as high as I can. And you know, if they see any slack, they're going to come and say, yeah, but you preach this, but you're not doing it. We're watching you. So it really elevates your standards, and I love that about what I do. You know, you always have to keep your standard as high as possible, and you know, they're there to learn from you. They're there to see you, you know, perform at the highest level, and hopefully learn from you in I would say in lessons and in real life when we're competing.
That's impressive, because it's always learning by seeing or by practicing. And to have a benchmark like you, it's a bit challenging I'm sure for a lot of them. But I strongly believe that it's like by the application and playing around with the facing you, it's really, I would say, a higher standard. But I think this is where the really tough men are created, basically.
But I'll be honest with you, we as athletes, I mean, like I said, I watch sports documentary all the time. Roger Federer, as many Grand Slams as he won, you never thought he reached the pinnacle of his career. He was always striving to do more. You know, you have to have that modesty in you that you did not reach the highest level. I mean, there's always someone better. There's always someone who's trying harder. And it's something where we for sure you heard it, that the second you stand still, people will pass you. You don't think you reached a certain level and you're done. Yeah.
That's true. When you feel that you are stagnating and you see people
100%.
are like achieving, you feel like okay. But sometimes you use it as a drive to keep pushing. But it's the same application everywhere. How's Abdullah training on daily basis? Because it's a tough regimen, and we briefly discussed before how you take this. Of course, now with you are Olympic athletes. How do you train physically as Abdullah? I'm not gonna talk about the horse because I think it's totally different. But how your training regimen between the mentality you build up, the training, the nutrition, the recovery? I'm interested to cover this.
So we're at off season right now. So it's a break we have before our summer. I would say summer season, but everything we do usually is gradual. You reach a certain level in your career where you know what works for you and what doesn't. Unfortunately, I've suffered few injuries in the sport. I had an ACL operation. I had few other injuries. So I also need to take care of my body as much as I need to increase my fitness.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally, my best way is actually train as many horses as I can. The more I ride, the fitter I get. And it comes to a certain degree where you reach the pinnacle of your fitness. And then, which I actually learned from cyclists, they say before championships or big events, they actually reduce the amount of work they do, which works for us very well because, for example, on daily basis, I'll ride 4 to 5 horses.
Okay.
And that would take 3 to 4 hours. And then when it comes to I would say the Olympic qualification, I concentrated on my main horse. So you have plenty of fitness for one horse.
Okay.
So that's ideally what
you become in sync.
Exactly.
With the.
That's the perfect word. In sync, because every horse has a different character, and you don't want different habits to interfere with the way you're gonna ride your main horse.
True.
So I'm not sure if this is in relation to this, but I've heard stories where like Michael Schumacher and these Formula One race drivers, they actually get driven by drivers.
Okay.
So that makes sense to me now, where they don't feel a different car if he's competing at the highest level. Yes. When it comes to the Formula One. You don't want anything to distract you. And
that's true.
And these minor things make the biggest difference. I think, if let's say being perfect is 100%.
Okay.
So let's say if your performance is 50%, to get to the 60%, it's a certain effort that you will achieve eventually.
Exactly.
Same thing to 70, same thing to 80, same thing to 90. I truly believe once you have the 90%, then you go into details. You go to 91.
Marginal changes.
Exactly.
I love it.
And then when you reach to 99, it goes to 99.1, 99.2, and it goes smaller and smaller. That's where the details matter.
True.
And certain things will make a huge improvement in your performance or in your, as an athlete, or even in your daily life as a businessman or an entrepreneur. But I think then, the details, what's the difference between this company and this company? What's the difference between rider, like word number 1 and word number 2? Those details matter. The plan he does, how his horses recover, how he recovers himself, how his horses travel from one show to another. And then you go into a certain planning and details that that the other.
But what you mentioned is covering the basics and the fundamentals are common for all the athletes. Exactly. Anyway, it's even in life. But this kind of marginal percentage at the end that differentiate you or put you on the stage or out of the stage. It's really critical because you are dealing with another being. And what you mentioned and you referred to when I watched a couple of documentaries about the sport specifically and the Formula One, for example, where the racer, he goes into the specific details of the car and he feels the sync because he's heavily involved in it. And this is what make it and break it. But again, this is a machine and we can relate to it more or less. But this is a horse, and what you mentioned at the final stage, you train only with your own horse to build this kind of sync relationship and harmony, let's call it. I can imagine this in the competition space, you have a lot of pressure. And you mentioned something cool at the beginning, that the mood of the horse. How can you manage the mood of another being? I'm interested.
It's not easy. It's not easy. But you know, we try to give them the same environment wherever we go. I mean, keep in mind, when we did the qualification, we went to Qatar. When we are going to the Asian Games, it's going to be in China. So there's a lot of logistics. The food that they're eating, the supplements they're taking. These are the basics, even, you know.
Okay.
And then the hours they're gonna be training. For example, if I know my main class or my main event, which is a Grand Prix, would be on Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
I built for that. So I want my horse body to physically expect to work at the same time. So 2-3 days before, at least, that's the time I'm gonna work.
Okay.
You know, so you have to try to think about all the details in order, like you said, to have that synchronization and harmony with your horse.
True.
To expect the best performance. So it's you know, it's also the planning. So the athlete needs to understand the schedule of the event and go into all these details.
Even this, he's involved.
Yes. You need to understand like every single aspect for you to perform at the highest level. Keep in mind, you know, depending on whatever event you are, there's 40 other riders dreaming of the same achievement, winning that class. And you would know, you know, there are, you know, these horses that been spent on or bought for millions of dirhams and you know, and they all have the same dream, the same management, and you know, these, like you said, the marginal things make a difference. The more in sync you are, the more comfortable in the environment you are in, you know. Like we are men, okay? So wherever you go to a hotel, the first thing you do is set, you know, how your stuff in the toilet, how you like your bed, where your, you know, like it naturally, it's a system, you know, and it applies to everything in life.
True.
The more comfortable you are, it feels more like home.
Exactly. How strict with yourself when it comes to the training personally, not the horse? Because what you mentioned is impressive, dealing with another being and to follow this sport regimen and the scheduling. How strict with yourself about the training? Because again, you mentioned that you go through the whole journey, preparation and off season now, and I'm interested to know how Abdullah is taking care of himself physically. And
I could take care of myself better for sure. There are always margin of improvement for sure. I unfortunately recently I had to have a hernia operation. It somehow restricted me to a big deal, especially I'm an active person. But it's not the first time I do an operation. I did my ACL during COVID. So, you know, it takes time to recover. But, you know, you have to listen to your body. And I truly believe that, you know, when you are an athlete, you would know what's better for you. You know when you're having a cheat meal. You know when you did not recover enough. You know when you didn't go to your physiotherapist on the right time.
That's true.
You know. And I try to stick to it as much as I can. It's very important. I think, you know, a lot of us think big about getting ready for a competition, competing, and they neglect the recovery part. And I've been lucky, you know, I work with a physiotherapist for nearly 2 years now, and it helped me a lot with you know, my injuries, etc. And, you know, I think it's very important to take care of yourself. It's you know, I think, you know, probably the prime example is Cristiano Ronaldo. They say he's you know, the ideal scenario when it comes to take care of your body, the way you eat, etc. I mean, he's the bar is so high, but you know, you want to try to emulate some of the things he does, you know, and we try to even see what access we have to the certain things, you know, having a sauna around. It doesn't have to be in your house, but if you have access to it somehow, and it helps in your recovery, whatever tools you can use. And I think in honesty, in Dubai and the UAE, we're quite lucky. I think, you know, within reaching distance, there's a lot of physiotherapists, a lot of recovery centers, and you know, take advantage of it. My old trainer, Alas Debeni, actually said she heard an interview. I can't remember the athlete's name. But the thing he said when they asked him, what would you do differently he said, I'll have more therapy sessions, like physiotherapy sessions and recovery. He said the only thing I would do differently, it will elongate his career a little bit more.
The recovery, and we discussed briefly about the concept that I worked on regarding the recovery part and how important that, of course, the top of the pyramid when it comes to recovery is sleeping.
Yes.
And after that, all the, again, marginal kind of small tweaks, shortcuts, cold exposure, sauna, stretching, mobility, this will not give you as a sportsman, but again, like a normal person in daily life, in stressful life, this will put you ahead versus others, which is really cool. Abdullah, when it comes to this sport specifically, how do you see it in the long term? Because here in the UAE and even in the GCC or in the Arab world, it's still at the beginning stages, right? It's still not that popular. What do you feel as Abdullah is contributing to the sport to make it more, I would say, accepted or like loved by, especially the young kids?
I think as the sport goes, I mean, like you said, with kids, I have two daughters now, and this, I think the sport is an amazing sport. Like I said, it has a long career. I think the community around the equestrian sport is usually one of the best communities in the world. In our country, I'll go a little bit, sideways in this conversation. So we're show jumping. And in our country, they love show jumping, but they also love endurance and racing. And
true.
And racing, we conquered the world with racing, with Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid vision. Endurance, the same thing. And I think show jumping is about to go on the same path.
Amazing.
Sheikh Fatima bint Hazza is the owner of a Shara stable, which the main sponsor I ride for. And she's done a lot of great things for the sport in the country and abroad. And she set the foundation of having UAE athletes compete at the highest level, which is an opportunity that's rare.
Exactly.
I'll put it in perspective. All European riders and American, which are the best riders in the world at the moment, have the ability to breed horses by themselves in their country.
Mm-hmm.
Our environment, it's not possible. You can breed Arabian horses, but warm bloods and horses we use in our sport, it's quite difficult.
Mm.
She took upon herself to have a farm in England and use the best bloodlines within Europe, from England, from Belgium, from Holland, etc. And she set her own breeding place in England. And where we're seeing the fruits of all the work she's done. And I think that's going to be something that the whole community in the UAE will benefit from. I mean, you have a stream of horses coming from a local breeder that's going to end up in the sport in the UAE. I think it will help everyone. And like I said, the sport somehow, for us as, for example, Grand Prix riders, you're going to compete with the horse, but then at a certain level, like us as athletes, you're going to be at a certain age where you can't compete at the highest level.
Yes, true.
That happens faster with horses than us as athletes in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
So they I won't say they downgrade, but they go at a lower level where they can teach different riders.
I see.
So they learn the trade. They have these horses have the experience. And Sheikha Fatima has a junior team, young rider team, so she supports the local. So come in to do your homework, learn the trade, and you're gonna get the support.
Nice.
And honestly, it started an unbelievable community. So we have at least in when we started, it used to be like 5 young riders only, 5 juniors, etc. And now we're reaching 20. So that
it's
quadruple.
becoming, exactly.
And the sport is growing. The venues are unbelievable. I would recommend anyone who's listening to your podcast to pass by our events. It's nicer, obviously, in the winter now. The weather doesn't.
It's hotter.
It doesn't help. Yeah, we usually move to Europe, which we'll move soon. But during the winter season, the events are so special. They're family events. You have restaurants. You can have a picnic there. You can enjoy the event, and there's always sometimes side shows. So it's a really beautiful getaway for the whole family.
Amazing. And what age you encourage the kids to start?
I would say they can be around horses since they are 5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, around horse, even younger. My kids are even younger. But you have to go to the right places. There is a lot of, I would say, centers, equestrian centers in the country that are BHS approved, which is British Horse Society.
Okay.
They have the standards of the right size horses for kids to be exposed to the right environment. You wouldn't want kids to be exposed to bigger horses. It's a bit scary. They're much huger. I told you my experience.
Yes, exactly. I was like, you were 16 and you found it like fake.
Exactly. So I think starting them in the right way. They don't have to ride to compete. It's just be around horses, enjoy this lifestyle, and they'll get the bug. Once you get the bug, you love the sport, and it goes from there.
Amazing. I think it's inspiring to hear you that how passionate about how to drive this. And by the way, congratulations for your own stable and moving there, like to have it as your headquarter now, right?
Yeah. So we started our stable a few months ago. I think it's a big thank you goes to my wife. She's been pushing me for a few years now.
Amazing.
Yeah. She's a horse rider herself, and
Okay.
she's definitely my right hand when it comes to these big decisions. She's like, you're good enough to do it, so you better do it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Exactly. And she supported me a lot, honestly, when it comes to achieving my dreams, my career. I know I couldn't do it without her. And like I said, the unconditional support, the unconditional love is important in your career, and it's so special when you have it in your own house, and it makes a big difference. And she's honestly always pushing me for greater things to be achieved.
Inspiring. Big shout out to her. But again, it's where can at least reach out to your stable, because now I became more interested. Maybe for my daughter, I will check with her. But now I became more interested to really consider. Not for me. I think we discussed my aspirations in sport. And but I'm really interested to introduce this type of sport to the kids, because what you mentioned is really inspiring, how to take care of yourself and how to take care of your environment, and of course taking care of another being, which is something is really important, because it can teach you being compassionate, understanding, and of course it's a complex relationship you build. But how can people reach out?
They can reach out. We are actually based in Sharjah Equestrian Racing Club in Sharjah. It's you can Google it. Where our stable is based over there. They can contact us also through Instagram. We have our own Instagram account.
I'll share this.
Al Marri Show Jumping Stable. We're more than happy to accommodate you, your daughters. We have the right ponies to have them, have the best first experience with horses.
No doubt.
But I think I want to mention something. It's been a special thing for us, because it gave me more time to spend with my family also. Having my daughter around the stable, I'm teaching, they're playing with the ponies around me. It's fun to see them passionate about something I'm passionate about, and having the whole family in the same place. And all the riders I have in the stable at the moment are honestly great characters. They all have great stories where they come from. We have, I would say, at least 8 nationalities.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful community, and we are more than welcome to come.
Again, all this conversation now put a lot of excitement to give it a shot. But Abdullah, I'm really inspired by this conversation. And again, of course, I will share all the social media handles there, because I'm sure a lot of people listening that are really interested, and I hear a lot of my friends that they are introducing the horseback riding for their children. So again, I'm really inspired. Thank you very much for joining me on the Superhuman Switch podcast. Again, pleasure.
Thank you, Safwan. Really, I enjoyed this, and I enjoyed all your podcasts. I listened to them. I'm
Amazing.
a regular. So hopefully, the audience have something to learn from our experiences.
For sure, and all the best for the 2024. Now I became more interested to watch another sport. I'll push Haitham also to make sure that we are on top of this. But again, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Take care.